It's been a fun couple of years for the Detroit Lions under Dan Campbell. Although they made early exit in the divisional round against Commanders, listen to this. They set franchise records in wins with 15, 33.2 points per game, and a point differential of plus 222. That offense was working. They've increased their win total by 3 or more games in 3 straight seasons. But as the old saying goes in the NFL, that stands for not for long. So some changes coming to the Motor City, some key additions, and see cornerback DJ Reed, offensive coordinator John Morton, defensive coordinator Kelvin Shepard, and key losses, of course, Frank Ragnow on the offensive line, offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, who's in Chicago, and defense coordinator Aaron Glenn, who, of course, is in New York. Now, someone who's going to be bouncing around NFL training camps for the next few weeks, NFL and CBS sideline reporter Evan Washburn joining us now. First off, Evan, the bag's packed. You're ready for a busy summer here?
Yeah, it's back to school, Mike. I'm not saying I'm packed just yet, but I've started to think ahead as to what I'm going to need to do to navigate. I think it's 9 or 10 teams in 2 weeks, but it's a lot of fun.
All right, let's start thinking ahead to the Lions now, who keep just trending up. This is a win-now team, the way you look at it. But again, their former OC's gone, their former DC's gone. How much of an impact is that going to have on a team like this with such high expectations?
It's huge. It's a brain drain. And this is something that high-quality organizations, teams have to deal with. You think about the LA Rams in recent years under Sean McVay, the amount of coaches that have come out of that building to go on to be head coaches. That includes positional coaches. Happened in New England all those years. Kansas City's had to deal with it. 10 new coaching hires in the offseason. You pointed to the 2 most important ones, John Morton on the offensive side of the ball, Kelvin Shepard on the defensive side of the ball. 2 first-time play callers. They have some experience. Kelvin Shepard obviously has been in the building there, helping run that defense under Aaron Glenn. But that's what training camp's going to be for this organization and for this team. How do these new coaches, new play callers blend with the talent? Most importantly, I would say, on the offensive side with Jared Goff and John Morton, can they create a similar type of chemistry, synergy that Ben Johnson and Goff had? Because we saw what that led to. One of the most explosive and dynamic offenses in the NFL last year. That's a tall order. You can't rush chemistry, but they're going to have to try.
Yeah, 68 total offensive touchdowns, second most all-time in NFL history. That's a lot to replace. Let's head over to Minnesota, though, because Sam Darnold, as we know, QB1 in Seattle, clearing the way for the start of the J.J. McCarthy era. This was a very good team last year, Evan. Is he ready to take over the reins?
We don't know, Mike, at this point. He's coming off that torn meniscus, suffered that about a year ago. Early in training camp, early indications during the preseason, a season ago after being drafted 10th overall, was that he was primed and ready to not just compete with Sam Darnold for QB1, but to take over the reins in year 1. Now, his progress has been delayed based off of that injury, but I think it says a lot that they didn't get into the Aaron Rodgers business. They allowed Daniel Jones to move on, who they brought on midseason after he'd been released from the Giants. That they're all in here in J.J. McCarthy. They bring in Sam Howell, who has a little bit of experience in the league as his backup. But this is a Super Bowl caliber team, much like the Lions, that are primed to win right now. They have a top 10 defense. They had a top 10 offense. They have arguably the best wide receiver in the game in Justin Jefferson. So J.J. McCarthy has to prove that he's capable of running this show. I don't think he has to be, the best top 10 quarterback in the league in year 1 for him under center, but he has to be able to handle what's going to come, which is the expectation and bright lights of, again, a team that's primed to make a Super Bowl run.
And those bright lights turn on Monday Night Football Week 1 when the Vikings take on the Bears. So tough sledding ahead. Now, you did mention Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers made no bones about it where they were going this offseason in terms of adding talent. Aaron Rodgers, part of that crew, has also combined 26 Pro Bowl appearances from all the guys they brought in. What is this sort of change of philosophy? I guess it doesn't feel very Steelers-esque what we've seen in the past, but what does this say about them and even maybe bigger picture head coach Mike Tomlin?
Well, I think the term all-in gets thrown around a lot, probably overused in our business, but I do think it qualifies here. The Steelers have thrown everything into this season because I think they look at the roster and they have a really healthy self-awareness in that building of what they have, especially defensively, with aging stars, Cam Hayward, I imagine they will sign TJ Watt. But this is a team defensively and in so many areas offensively that can make a run at that division in the playoffs. They need someone under center that is capable. And I don't think they need Aaron Rodgers, and I don't believe they think Aaron Rodgers has to be MVP caliber. That'd be great. But I think they view it, we need a couple plays, Mike, late in a game to win us games, and more importantly, not lose us games early. And you saw that in moments with Russell Wilson. I think of a game in D.C. that we were covering against the Commanders. He makes that throw late. They need more of that from Aaron Rodgers than they got last year. And then I think all those other pieces will help lift him up and kind of subtly, not on the surface there, their offensive line that they've built through the draft and a couple tweaks in free agency has really developed into a strong one. So I think that'll help Rodgers in this offense hit another level.
Let's stay in the AFC North there. You mentioned competing for the division. The Bengals certainly will be in that mix. They threw a lot of money at their offense this offseason. What does the defense need to do to hold up their end of the bargain to get them back in the playoffs?
Just be average. Don't ruin games. I mean, the quarterback series now on Netflix is a reminder to all of us just how good Joe Burrow was last year and what he did with that offense. You look about the number of games they lost in the 30s. I think this defense that had been so good just regressed. And then I think statistically, if they're living in that 12 to 15 range in terms of points per game allowed, third down percentage, some of those key metrics we always point to, this team can absolutely compete with, most importantly, Baltimore, but then if Pittsburgh does what they hope to do as well in that AFC North. But as we look at it, it's a defense that has a bunch of question marks. They have new leadership in Al Golden. He's coming from college. What's that mean? He has obvious NFL experience with the Bengals a few years ago at the linebacker coaching position. But Trey Hendrickson still in a contract dispute, I think is a fair way to describe it. And their top pick in Shamar Stewart, who we know is holding out right now or hasn't signed his deal. Shouldn't say he's holding out at this point. One of just 2 first-rounders to not sign their rookie contract because of some of that guaranteed money language. I imagine those things will get ironed out, but they have to get ironed out early in camp. This team, not just this defense, Mike, has to get off to a fast start. The number of week 1 and week 2 losses they've suffered, the holes they've dug themselves in the last few years has become exhausting to get out of. At years they were able to, last year it just was too much. They have to start fast, and that will really start with the defense just being average.
Yeah, see if they can get that done. All right, let's move over to Houston now to wrap this up. C.J. Stroud, bit of a sophomore slump there for the quarterback, their quarterback there in Houston. Has a new OC help him? Can we see an improved C.J. Stroud in 2025?
Yeah, a little slight pushback, though, there, Mike. I think, yes, it was a sophomore dip to some degree. Really, it was a matter of protection. Yeah, his interceptions were up. His touchdown passes were down. This team still won the same number of games, still won a playoff game, thanks in large part to what C.J. Stroud did. He lost Tank Dell last year again, but it was his offensive line that let him down. He was sacked 52 times. They've made some moves there. Larrabee Tunsil moved on. Cam Robinson in. That, to me, is the big question mark when it comes to this team. Is this offensive line prepared to protect C.J. Stroud, allow him to maybe return to the heights we saw his rookie season, even though, again, I don't think he had that much of a down year too. Nick Cawley steps in, who's got connections with Nick Caserio from their New England days. He replaces Bobby Sloak, as you mentioned. A lot of excitement about what he brings to this offense, or could. Spent a year working, or a few years working with Sean McVay. So I'm buying in on the Texans and C.J. Stroud here, having, I guess you could call it a bounce back year, even though they did exactly what they did the year before. But they are capable of competing with, at this point, on paper, the top of the AFC, which is Buffalo, Kansas City, and Baltimore.
Always great context and insight from the guy who's gets the closest maybe view of all of these guys during the season and during training camp. Evan Washburn, thanks for joining us. Enjoy the ride this summer. Now here are the championship odds for the NFL. And how about this? Odds to win the Super Bowl. The Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson and company at the top there at plus 650. We'll see if maybe the Bills can finally get it done there at plus 700. And defending champs, the Eagles, at plus 750.